The issue I'm going to be exploring in this video is how mental health issues affect the Latino community's school performance and looking at why that happens, how it manifests, what it affects, and all those things. So just to get us started at this issue in general, the Latino youth has a higher percent chance of experiencing things like depression and anxiety than, let's say, the white community. And these things don't start later in life. They happen very young, as early as elementary school. So you have these kids that have these undiagnosed, undealt with issues walking around and without the skills at all to work through it. And then their parents a lot of times don't have the financial resources or the emotional or time capacity to handle these issues, leading to them not really getting dealt with. And then from there, it's an undiagnosed issue. So as this kid grows up, he's going through school labeled as the problem child because it's not looked at as this kid needs help. It's always being disruptive. And then with that label, the kid goes through school dealing with these issues, isn't feeling taken care of. And so the kid's growing up, going through these things, not feeling taken care of, and has these undiagnosed issues that they need help with that just aren't getting taken care of. And the way this applies to Marin County specifically is Marin County has a pretty dense Latino population. It's about 19%. And that community is not well funded, a lot of times impoverished in rough areas, subject to natural disasters by the water. You can look at the canal. And so it's a very prevalent issue for this community in Marin County specifically. And then looking at how this manifests in the school system, these kids are not feeling taken care of. They have needs that are not being met. They have stuff they need to go through, and that's going to come out in different ways. So looking at the statistics, according to my sources, the Latino community has about a 81% graduation rate from high school, which is the lowest of any ethnic or racial group within Marin County, and it's over 10% lower than any other group. And that really shows you how this community is being underrepresented in the education system. And it's not just a thing of like they're not trying hard. There's obviously a systematic issue for why this is the case, for it to be that much lower than everyone else. And then just looking at my community partner, MCS, Marin Community School, it's almost 100% Latino. And as a school of people that got kicked out of other schools, you can see there's a disproportionately large amount of young Latino kids getting kicked out of school and needing secondary options, which is an issue. So we can see how this manifests in the data, as some studies have been done showing that at least 1 in 3 Latino kids feels helpless and life is pointless for long periods of time, which goes into that trauma, the anxiety and depression they're feeling, as well as not doing as well in school because of this. It's like, what's the point? I'm not going to get a good job. I'm not going to have these opportunities. So they're feeling this helplessness. And then there's also a pretty strong link of kids with learning disabilities are more likely to have mental health issues, which really shows the correlation of school performance to mental health and vice versa. If you're doing well in school, you're going to be doing better mental health-wise because you have that validation. And if it's not the case, it's going to compound and you're going to feel worse and worse about yourself, making the depression and anxiety happen more often and be worse. And then looking at it logistically through school funding, kids with mental health issues are more likely to have more absences, and more absences, less test performance consistency, lower test scores. That means your school's going to get less funding, meaning even less resources for the kids, making the issue worse and worse as it goes, which shows how systematically this happens. It's not a mistake. It's all done very, very intentionally. And then a separate issue, but it also feeds into it, is just the opportunity gap thought. A lot of these kids are like, well, white people have all these good jobs. White people have all these opportunities. Like, I'm not seeing people like me in these positions of power. What's even the point? So it feeds into the helplessness, the depression, the anxiety. All of these things go hand in hand to create a less than ideal school performance through very little fault of the kid themselves. And then that goes into the school to prison to deportation pipeline, as these kids maybe fail out of school or feel like they don't have opportunities. Crime becomes a potential escape, rebellion, any of this stuff. And then from there, the country can use this as a criminal to try and deport them. Even if they are legal citizens, it has been made very apparent that that is not an issue for the United States. It's just trying to get people who are different out of the country. And then that takes us to MCS, my community partner, and what they're doing to try and face off against this issue, to try and combat it. And I believe personally they're doing a pretty good job. So that school environment is very inclusive and very accommodating to the kids. If they need a break, if they're really not doing well today and just need to chill out, they let them do that, and there isn't like a punishment or like a grade impact. Late work, they can just turn in before this like hard deadline for all the stuff. It's not like if you miss it by a day, you're punished. So it just allows these kids to have struggles and not punish them for it, which I think is great. It's not a perfect place, obviously. It's not gonna, like, not all these kids are gonna succeed in life, which is very sad to see. But as a small school that isn't getting a ton of funding, it is doing the best it can, and in my opinion, a very admirable job at lessening the impact of these mental health issues on these kids and trying to teach them emotional awareness, how to deal with their emotions, and set them up for a brighter future.